Hi, my name is Margaret Kennedy. I'm a nurse at Lancaster General Hospital, and today I'm going to talk to you about shift length, fatigue, and patient safety, the nursing debate, 12-hour shifts versus 8-hour shifts. And this is my audience. Hospitals and acute care facilities operate on a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day, 52-week schedule. This operating schedule requires employees to participate in shift work and extended shifts. And within the hospital, nursing is the largest group of laborers. The combination, per Burker and Nussbaum, 2011, the combination of long working hours, physical and mental demands of nursing can cause acute and chronic fatigue, which can lead to medical errors, thereby compromising patient safety. A little background here, 12-hour shifts date back to the 1970s and replaced or used in combination with 8-hour shifts. Most American hospitals today operate on 12-hour shifts to cover the continuous care for 24 hours a day. Nurses today often also do day and night rotations, overtime, and some of them even have second jobs. University of Pennsylvania in 2011 did a survey, and 65% of 23,000 nurses surveyed worked 12 to 13-hour shifts. Some states have laws against mandatory overtime, but not against voluntary overtime, and there's no national work hour policies for nurses. According again to Barker and Nussbaum, 2011, extensive evidence links fatigue with nurse injuries and adverse health consequences, nurse satisfaction, and patient safety. Research into the nursing fatigue and its implications started back in 2011, and it was begun by the Joint Commission. The Joint Commission is the hospital's accreditation and certification committee. They provided a sentinel event alert, and a sentinel event is described by the Joint Commission as any unanticipated event in healthcare setting resulting in death or serious physical or psychological injury to a patient or patients, not related to their course of illness. So in 2011, the Joint Commission issued this sentinel event alert, and it was related to the extended work hours and how they contributed to high levels of worker fatigue and decreased productivity. Also, that fatigue increases the risk of adverse events, compromising patient safety, and increased risk to personal safety and well-being for nurses. The Joint Commission labeled extended shifts as anything longer than 12 hours. Some reports, as we'll mention later, some studies said anything greater than 9 hours, but the Joint Commission said greater than 12. And you know, when we have unanticipated staffing changes and end of shift work to complete, that can result in nurses working past that extended shift already. And that leads to fatigue and allegedly compromising patient care. Fatigue in the healthcare setting is multidimensional. There's all different kinds. First is a physical fatigue, strictly from working 12-hour shifts, lifting heavy patients, lifting and pushing equipment, and on top of a lack of sleep. Mental fatigue, which could be related to poor sleep and a lack of rejuvenation between shifts. Compassion fatigue, because as nurses, every day we are surrounded by people in human suffering. And also alarm fatigue, which is, just the numerous equipments that have alarms that can wear on us and cause alarm fatigue too, all the different bells and whistles. Some long-term effects of 12-hour shifts on nurses' own health could be the increased risk of obesity, heart disease, stroke, hypertension, glucose intolerance, GI disturbances, and reproductive problems. But on the other hand, 12-hour shifts improve staff morale and reduce absenteeism. They make for a better work-life balance per the nurses, and they also have for a shorter work week. Some nurses that work 12-hour shifts feel that they are connected more to their patients and their families, being with them for that longer day. Some statistics and some studies related to this. There was numerous studies show statistical significance when shift length was greater than 9 hours regarding patient satisfaction. So patients that had nurses that were working greater than 8 or 9 hours would not recommend that hospital to others. There's also an increase in nurse burnout, job dissatisfaction, and nurses who intended to leave their jobs within the 1 year. These were found in nurses that worked greater than 9-hour shifts. Another study at the University of Maryland had nurses working 3 12-hour shifts in a row, found a pattern of sleep deprivation and slower reaction time in both the day and night shift. Some other statistics: nurses working 12 and a half or longer longer shifts were 3 times more likely to make an error, but there was no difference in fatigue between the 8-hour shift and the 12-hour shift. Just no difference in fatigue, but there was difference in the possibility, 3 times more likely to make an error. There was a study by Calhoun et al. In 2014 that involved nurses being pulled off the unit to participate in 3 simulations during their 12-hour shift. This was to examine the effects of work length on the completion rate and accuracy of critical care nursing tasks. So the first occurred at the beginning of their shift, and the task took 17.9 minutes to complete. The second simulation occurred 6 hours into their shift, and the task took 13.3 minutes to complete. And then it was also performed at the end of their shift, where it took 12.4 minutes to complete. This was of statistical significance, but there was no sign. They didn't determine the completion of tasks that were completed, the percentage of tasks that were completed, but they broke it down on minutes, and it was statistically significant for the first part of the shift and the second part of the shift. According to the Pennsylvania Patient Safety Reporting System, there were 1,600 incidents or near misses that didn't end in harm reported between June of 2004 and August of 2013. That's 68.5% reported as resulting from healthcare worker fatigue. So I broke this down again into 8-hour shift, the case for 8-hour shifts and the case for 12-hour shift. 8-hour shifts include longer shifts, or 8-hour shifts claim that longer shifts increase fatigue, shorter shifts equals less burnout, shorter shifts improve patient satisfaction, shorter shifts have fewer errors, and shorter shifts have less on-the-job injuries, while longer shifts can be detrimental to a nurse's health, as we talked about. That's for 8-hour shifts. And the case for 12-hour shifts is longer shifts mean less patient turnover, longer shifts provide better work-life balance, longer shifts mean less commuting to and from work, longer shifts equal greater flexibility for nurses in their scheduling and their time off, longer shifts are easier to schedule for the managers and for, one less nurse needed for the day. And then longer shifts also improve morale on the unit. In conclusion, regarding burnout and fatigue, the length of the shift may not actually matter as much as the workplace environment. Adequate nurse-patient ratios are key, as is the culture of respect for the nurses during their time off, not relying on overtime as a staffing strategy. So when we get those calls on the weekend to beg us to come into work, that's really breaking into our family time and our downtime. Despite all this research, the effects of the 8 and 12-hour shift, really there is no clear winner of what it is. To me, it seems like the 12-hour shifts are the younger people, the 20 and 30-year-olds like the 12-hour shifts. We, getting to my age, enjoy the 8-hour shifts. I find some of these very long. Also, 12-hour shifts are great for the managers and for staffing. Like I said, it's easier to staff a unit based on that with less nurses needed. But in the end, there is no clear answer, and statistics, more research needs to be done regarding this topic. Thank you.